The Nintendo Switch 2 just got its first credible step toward a jailbreak, and it didn't come from someone in the Switch scene. It came from a guy who's been busy exploiting PlayStation consoles for the last few years, so let's get into this. Real quick, if you're new here, hey, I'm Coulter. On this channel we cover console mods, retro tech, and generally doing janky things with hardware it was never supposed to do. So if that sounds like you, be sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss future videos. So if you're like me, you own a Switch 2, and it's cool. You know, it plays Switch 2 games really well. It's a big upgrade over the Switch 1, both in size and power and all that good stuff. But if you're a current or soon-to-be subscriber of this channel, you're probably also looking at it and thinking, man, I would love to see what this thing could run if we had a jailbreak running on it, like Gazine or CashOS on Switch 2, anyone? And so a lot of us have been monitoring the Switch 2 hacking scene since launch day, and if you recall, right on day one of the Switch 2, we got David Buchanan's exploit, which was a Userland ROP demo that drew a checkerboard pattern on the screen on firmware 20.1.1, which was sick for like 2 hours before everyone agreed that, okay, you can do basically nothing with this, and I'm pretty sure Nintendo already patched that out anyway. And that exploit was achieved, I believe, by sending over a modified Switch 1 save over NSO to the Switch 2, which of course is quite sketchy because it relies on Nintendo's own servers to deliver an exploit, and that's never a good idea. We don't want to talk to the manufacturer's servers when we're doing things to these devices. But since that exploit, it's been pretty dang quiet on the Switch 2 jailbreak scene, and makes sense, it's year one of the console, and Nintendo has made it really clear that they did not love what we did after jailbreaking the Switch, which of course led to us reverse engineering the hardware more, led to Switch emulators, led to a much more abundant sharing of resources online, if you know what I mean, that Nintendo does not appreciate. And that's when I saw this tweet drop yesterday and instantly knew I needed to make a video about it. Not because it means that the Switch 2 is about to get cracked wide open tomorrow, it doesn't, but because of who posted it and why the technical details actually matter. So the person who posted this is a person going by Gezine, and if you're not from the PlayStation side of the modding world, you might not know that name, and honestly I hadn't come across it yet either, but I'm sure I've benefited from some of their work, so thank you indeed, Gezine person, for your work. But Gazine is probably the most prolific exploit developer in the current PS4 and PS5 scene. Like, we're talking the Blu-ray Java exploit covering firmwares 1.0 through 12.50, LuaCore, Y2JB, and just back in April of this year, he claimed a private zero-day kernel exploit running on PS4 and PS5 firmware 13.50, the latest firmware at the time, which if you know anything about the PlayStation exploit scene, those higher PS5 firmware exploits are the ones everyone's been hunting for years now. He didn't release it, but the fact that he found it says a lot about what this guy can actually do. So when Gazine posts a 21-second video that just says hello from Switch 2 in a system error dialogue and then explains why it's interesting, people generally agree that that is very interesting and might lead to some cool stuff later. Before we move on, quick shout out to Lano for sponsoring this video. If you ever want to get whatever you're running on a handheld or laptop up onto a bigger display, the Lano S850 is a wireless HDMI transmitter and receiver that does exactly that, but without any cables, which is sick. The Type-C transmitter plugs into your device, and then you plug the receiver into your TV with a short little HDMI cable it comes with, give that a bit of USB-C power, and then it just works. No Wi-Fi, no app, no drivers. 1080p output at 60 Hz with 50 meters of range, which is like 350 feet or something, which is wild, with virtually no latency. The device uses both 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz transmission, making for a stronger and more stable signal with smoother video, even going through things like walls or obstacles. Like, I even walked a ways away and stood behind my fridge and we were still going. Like, your results may vary, but usually my wireless devices do not like a fridge being between them, so that was quite impressive. But what makes the S850 different from other wireless HDMI kits is it has a second connection mode where you don't even need the transmitter. You can actually just mirrorcast your phone, tablet, or laptop directly to the receiver, which is very nice to have options. The whole unit weighs 48.9 grams. It includes a strap for putting on your wrist or bag or whatever. And I'm actually planning to take a Lano wireless transmitter with me on vacation so I can avoid the annoying trying to control the iPad connected to the TV from across the hotel room thing. It works on phones, tablets, laptops, and PCs. It throws to TVs, monitors, projectors, so link is in the description. And thank you so much to Lano for sponsoring this video. Now, what did he actually do? Here's what Gazine posted, and I want to quickly walk through the technical bits because they're actually pretty important here. And so he said, I created a Switch 1 and 2 Userland exploit that is not WebKit or a save exploit, meaning that no, he didn't do the same thing as before, where you send a modified Switch 1 save over to the Switch 2. Like we said, that's pretty fragile. And then he also said it's not WebKit based, which if you've jailbroken a PS3 or 4 or Wii U, you're well aware of going to this fancy little web address that suddenly bloop, makes a black screen pop up and does some things on your console. That's essentially hacking a vulnerability in the browser built into the console. And that's been a classic entry point for a number of consoles, like the ones I just mentioned, but But Gazine says he checked out that door and it was a shut door, at least for now, because the Switch 2's WebKit uses ARM PAC, which stands for Pointer Authentication Code, which is a hardware level security feature that actively prevents return-oriented programming chains from executing. And what that means is essentially the Switch will flip out or at least reject you trying to do stuff in the WebKit that it doesn't want you to do. So unless someone can find a way around PAC, that door seems closed as well. As for the keyword Userland in his tweet, if you don't know what that means that he was able to get to the application layer. So not the kernel level. The kernel level is where you can do the real meat and potatoes of stuff of running Linux and using the full amount of CPU and GPU resources to do things like emulation, but the application layer is still quite good. You can still do a lot of cool stuff with the application layer. Kinda you made it into the lobby, you just didn't make it into the vault yet, if you want an analogy for that. But if Gazine didn't go through a modded save file, and if he didn't go through WebKit, then what is this third door that he's gone down to create this video that he posted? And he hasn't said exactly what it is yet, and thankfully he actually blurred the arrow code in the video, specifically so Nintendo can't pin down the vulnerability from the outside and start working against it, thus closing this door before it's even swung wide open for him. But the key properties he confirmed are, it works on all firmwares, it doesn't require Nintendo Switch Online, and it doesn't touch WebKit. And that last part, it being firmware agnostic, is huge. That means that there's no shade to us who have been updating our Switches so that we can, use our Switch 2s and the limited library of games we purchased for them, instead of just keeping them in the box after buying it early June last year and hoping a day one exploit becomes available for it. And so in theory, if this entry point holds up and someone eventually chains it with a kernel exploit, it means that every Switch 2 out there could potentially receive a kernel level exploit, thus unlocking their Switch 2s to do a ton more with them than Nintendo allows us to. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, I do want to be careful here because the jailbreaking exploit scene is very good at getting overexcited and then the enthusiasm crashing back down. So let's call it what it is. This is still just a tweet and a 21-second demo video. There's no released code. There's no proof of concept that anyone can run on their own Switch right now. There's no kernel exploit chained to this. And Gazine himself acknowledged in the ReSwitch Discord server that community members told him that this type of entry point isn't necessarily new in itself. Userland exploits have shown up since day one, but what is new is the delivery mechanism of how he got in while being firmware agnostic and no online requirement. As for how he got in, some people in the community are speculating that the actual entry might come through a Switch 1 game running in backwards compatibility mode, because I guess Switch 1 games don't come with the same ARM security hardening protocols that Switch 2 games do. And some, including myself, based on what I can see from the video, that he might have been able to exploit the notification system itself of the Switch, which is why we see a notification pop up after whatever that little chain of code runs, which is why the demo is a notification popping up in itself. Or maybe it's a mix, and maybe it's a Switch 1 game triggering a notification, triggering something else. So this is all speculation, so don't take any of this as gospel, but I will definitely be watching his Twitter as more info unrolls about this exploit. As for what this actually means for us right now, if you have a Switch 2 and you're planning to update your firmware, you might want to think about that. Not because anything is exploitable today, but because firmware agnostic entry points can change that calculus fast. Like, if Nintendo gets a whiff of what this might be, all of a sudden the firmware version that's out today could become the top supported firmware version for this exploit entry point. And if something does chain together down the road and this entry point becomes an opener for a kernel level exploit or something, suddenly the firmware that's out today will become the golden firmware that unlocks the Switch 2 that lets you do a ton more with it and all that. So if you're not really using your Switch 2 right now and you're very curious to know what an exploited Switch 2 would be like, airplane mode is going to be your friend, my guy. Or, I don't know, do some crazy DNS stuff to block Nintendo's updates, but maybe just airplane mode would be enough. But at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily hold your Switch 2 in a box for a year waiting for a cool exploit to drop, next month, because we have no idea if and how this is going to escalate. It could be a couple of weeks, could be a couple of months, could be a couple of years. We're still very early in the Switch 2 life cycle, and some consoles don't even get fully blown open exploit-wise until well after their end-of-life date. So if you want to play your Switch 2, definitely play your Switch 2, play your games, enjoy the Ocarina of Time remake that's coming out later this year, because honestly, thank you, Nintendo. We all were gonna be pretty surprised if you didn't cash in on that IP on the Switch 2. But next time you get that prompt to update, maybe just give it a quick thought on what you might be balancing at the same time. By the way, if you're one of the people watching without being subscribed, now is a pretty good time to fix that, as we're gonna be covering this stuff as it develops and also covering all kinds of other console exploits and things, because I think that's more and more becoming what this channel is about. So if you wanna click that subscribe button down below, it has a lovely little animation that'll play, you get a nice little hit of dopamine, so it's a win-win, if you wouldn't mind. Much appreciated. So when will an exploit arrive? Honestly, I have no idea how long that might take. It could be months, could be longer. It could go nowhere publicly, even if Gazine keeps making progress privately, which, if you followed his April burnout announcement in the PlayStation scene, is a real possibility. He literally said he was stepping away from releasing tools because of the constant pressure from the community. And honestly, as a developer especially, totally get that. Like, the grind can really get to you. But for the first time since that checkerboard demo over a year ago, there's finally something that looks like real research momentum on Switch 2 exploits from someone who actually has a track record in turning entry points into full exploit chains. So that's definitely worth paying attention to. So let me know in the comments, are you going to be a doomsday prepper and keep your Switch 2 in a box in the corner until an eventual exploit comes out because you've decided it's only of value to you if it's exploited and not vanilla? If that's you, go ahead and drop a cardboard box in the comments. Or if you plan to just keep updating and using your Switch until maybe an eventual exploit comes out sometime, and then we'll just see if it's compatible then, go ahead and drop a game controller in the comments because, yeah, there's no shade here. Game on. And if this kind of the fortress has fallen moment content is your thing, you'll probably want to check out the video where I broke down the Bliss exploit for the Xbox One, which after 13 years of being called literally unhackable, finally got cracked earlier this year via a voltage glitch attack on the boot ROM, and that one's pretty wild. So go ahead and check out that video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.